Babe, you're cute with eggs.
I'm sorry, just don't forget about Goose.
I will never forget about Goose. Captain Marvel is obviously a movie that we've been looking for some time. It's the MCU, and as every movie in the MCU is, it comes in larger than life and with a scale of expectation rising to it. There are two different camps right now, it seems, in the internet world, and it seems like one wants to just shit on the entire thing, and the other wants to praise it for undue, perchance, things. So, in this movie, we've got the two main characters, I could say, of the movie, which is Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, which comes off as Captain Veers, I think is what they call her, if I'm not mistaken. It gets changed later, don't worry. And then number two, Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury. We love him at this point. We want more of him, and it's great to see him here. With that said, I have to particularly shout out the fact that these de-aging technology that they're using for the MCU right now is just incredible. Like, maybe, I don't even know if it was a couple minutes or if it was right from the beginning, but you get lost over time in the movie that this is a de-aging of Samuel L. Jackson and not the real thing. You think it's the real thing throughout. Like, verbatim. It's like they shot this 20 years ago. It's crazy. So, that technology alone definitely sets this movie far and above its competition. But the things that you're here for as a movie-going fan are, where is it connecting to the MCU? And how does it stand alone on itself for its own merits? And the movie is good. The movie is good. There are definitely some things to take away from it as harsh points. You could say that, hey, this movie really didn't have a particularly interesting, I guess you could call it, theme to itself, a style, if you will, of the movie that sets it apart from its competition. It feels like kind of everything else. When you look at the movie in terms of action, the tone, the type of vibes you're getting from it, you've seen it before. The thing that sets it apart, though, is what I think one camp of the two different bases that seem to be trying to dissect and either throw this movie into, the cutting board or, hold this up on the pillars of cinematic greatness, is that it is very much a women's first movie. And I think that in a good way, in the sense of, she's inspiring different types of people. Much like in Black Panther, we celebrated that Black Panther was celebrating a different type of community and holding it up to a new standard, a new version of excellence, and you get to see it in all of its glory. And here Carol Danvers shines. She inspires little girls, her best friend, and they speak with her with such an awe and with a reverence before she had her powers, let alone after she got them. And there are some flashbacks here that insinuate that she kind of had a tough time growing into it. And those work effectively in setting her archetype. But the movie takes a lot of time getting to these beats. And when it gets to these beats, it's super obvious. It's thrown in your face. And so some may see that as maybe... And this is something that my wife brought to my attention, Katie, that maybe this is just taking a movement of the Me Too movement and using it as kind of a selling scheme for the movie, rather than actually subtly hinting at it and putting it in there in the back burner. And ultimately, this movie is going to be compared to Wonder Woman, 100%. Whether it's founded or not, I think that that's going to happen. And if you do compare the two movies, I think Wonder Woman has a much better rate of success in the terms that it obviously insinuates that she as a character is badass, incredible, larger than life, and that Diana inspires others to follow. And the coolest part in that movie was when she walks out of the trench and inspires all of the men in that troop to follow after her and push the line. That is a moment that will never be able to replicate it, I think, as effectively as it was before. And so Carol Danvers has similar things, but doesn't reach that level of effectiveness in terms of its, I guess, design, if you want to call it that. Which is funny because the writing itself throws it implicitly in your face. So it's a take it or leave it kind of approach with this movie in terms of what you as a person is going to get out of it. The connections to the MCU, they're strong. And there is a bit of a pro and con here as well, when the fact that if you're a hardcore fan and you've been wanting something different from Captain Marvel, you're not going to get anything different. And it entirely relies upon its source material in order to explain the powers of the character. I thought it worked, but I can understand how some think otherwise. So again, 50-50 on that. And ultimately, at the end of the day too, there are some other choices in terms of it being a prequel and explaining certain things that are like in a character's design later in other movies that are just really stupid. In fact, I had a huge eye roll at one of them in particular with Nick Fury. Once you watch the movie, you will understand what I mean. I thought it was much like Han Solo in terms of what it did with the Star Wars universe, wrecking a character's origin story, and not for the better. Really annoying how they explain that. That kind of shit, the red arm C-3PO kind of bullshit, get that out of here. I don't want any more of that in either MCU or Star Wars. That kind of stuff, leave it aside, keep it in comic books or other types of lore. I just don't need to see it in the movies. It's really silly. Really silly. So, when we're looking at it objectively as you can review a subjective movie experience, I would ultimately say that Marvel's Captain Marvel rates at around an 8. I feel like that's giving it credit for the things that it celebrates and the really cool sci-fi that it brings out into the fold, but also recognizing that this movie is, at the end of the day, just a repeat of origin stories before it, whether or not it's with a female-led superhero. So it's something to consider when you look at this movie and you take your enjoyment out of it. It's not going to be anywhere near my favorite Marvel movie experiences at any of these days, and, I just have to be honest about that. But look, at the end of the day, there are a few things that it throws as a surprise in here. You're going to hear a lot about people from the villain of this movie and that it's kind of a surprise. And Ben Mendelsohn's character is great, and there's a specific reason for that. I don't want to go into it without spoiling it, but it works. It works really effectively. And the lore building is cool. It's a fun movie. If you're going to go out and see a movie right now, you're probably going to go see this. So let me know what you think in the comments below, as I think it's going to be an interesting point of debate, especially as we go into Endgame very, very soon on the horizon here. We've got about a month, nothing-ish, a half, about until Endgame hits theaters. And it's going to be wild and it's going to be crazy. And of course, we're going to take the knowledge that Captain Marvel gave us here and throw it into that movie, and it's going to change everyone's minds. I hope for the better, and we'll see what happens with the theories online after people see this movie. So stay tuned here for more on reviews, and let's go watch what's worth it.